Welcome, people of the World Wide Web. So my name is Chris and this is Cypher Sigma Screen Time, one of two YouTube channels that I have. This goes about movies and that. I have another one of toys. If you are interested, please do go visit that one. That one is Cypher Sigma Toys. So yes, so this is a video. It's a Friday, not a Saturday as you expected. So we've seen 3 movies this past week. So that's why we have Friday, Saturday and Sunday rather than Saturday and Sunday, just to not overload the audience. So yes, this is probably, as the thing title will say, probably one of the best movies of 2025 that I didn't see. So this came out around just before Boxing Day, and it is The Housemaid. Kind of singing its praises already. This comes from a Frida McFadden book. My wife has seen this and I brought my wife with me. She knew what was going on, so I do know a little bit more. I didn't know at the time. She kept everything quiet from me. But it is 2 hours and 11 minutes long and it is a 15 rated. This is essentially where you have Sydney Sweeney's character called Millie. She applies to be a housemaid for Nina and Andrew, played by Amanda Seyfried and Brandon Skelner. They have a daughter, Cece, in this, and essentially, as the trailer would pertain, she goes there, she works for them, and Nina starts to become very crazy, basically causing havoc. Seems a bit psychotic, and trouble ensues from there. That is all the trailer gives away from you, and I think it does a very good job. I did really enjoy this. There is nothing after credits, but there is a bit, just you watch to the end of the film. This movie is directed by Paul Feige, which is surprising because if you've seen some of his previous movies like Ghostbusters and that, I didn't think this would be that great. I was pleasantly surprised. So we'll put the spoiler warning up and we shall get into this movie. So yes, so as this movie starts, we have Sydney Sweeney in her little car driving up to the mansion, to the Westfields. Nina Andrew, she meets with Nina, basically explains this is a job, you're a candidate, goes for it, they get on quite well. She leaves. As she leaves, she doesn't think she'll get the job. And then you find a little bit more about her, that she sleeps in a car. She is a criminal, which is kind of there's something going on why she doesn't. She's trying to look for a job, and luckily that Nina gave her some money, and then she goes as a burglar and stuff like this, and that's how she spends the next 2 days. She's then contacted and given the job, surprise, surprise, because she is, because obviously they did a proper background check, because her CV that she gave into it was a bit falsified. So she starts work for him. So she starts the first day. She's given all these responsibilities. She goes and does everything needs to do. All happy. The dad comes home that she never meets him. The daughter meets him. Daughter is a little bit standoffish. She goes up to her room. Nina comes up and says, you know, good. Millie does notice that the window in her room doesn't open and the door has a deadlock on it, and Nina basically writes this off. And at least it used to be a file room for her husband, and obviously because of fire's importance, that's why it had to be kind of sealed and secured. Kind of makes sense. Obviously this, where her room is on the top floor of the house, and there is some stairs to go down to a bathroom, and then the house, everything in the house is below that. So then we go on. So as we go on to the next day, as she unfortunately, Nina oversleeps. As she wakes up, when she hears noises, Millie oversleeps. Nina's basically ripping the house apart and basically going frantic that Millie's cleaned up and eventually cleaned away a notes that she wrote by hand. She's having a bit of a meltdown. Andrew comes in, helps her out, says he'll sort out the stuff for the day, so Nina can go and write the notes, and Millie's left to clean up. And then this is where you start to see a little bit of a connection. That night she has a sexual fantasy about Andrew. And then obviously stuff starts to progress. As we go on, we find that Nina is a little bit kind of coming across crazy. Some days it's all right. Some days she's asking her to do stuff like pick up the daughter. When she gets there, the daughter's staying over there, sends her on errands that she isn't needed, and stuff like this. Gives her clothes that she then kind of lies back. Then it basically, this story then goes on for a little while, and then you get to a point of Nina basically saying it doesn't work out. Millie obviously needs this job, obviously needs criminal, obviously because of her criminal record, and she needs a job and a place to stay, otherwise she's staying in a car. So Nina agrees that she's got 1 week. She goes away with her daughter, takes her to camp. As she goes away, leading up to this, she says Nina to book her some tickets to take her and her husband away, but obviously he has had this thing planned anyway, basically just to stitch her up and make her life ruin. As she then goes away, there are tickets there. Andrew tries to be nice, gives them to Millie and says, take a friend. Millie doesn't have any friends because obviously she was in prison. And Andrew and Millie go. One thing kind of leads to another, and there are obviously sparks flying by the end of the night, but they get too drunk in the night after going for dinner, and have separate rooms. But then obviously Nina, Millie's phone dies, but when she recharges it in a hotel room, Nina's basically going ape shit. She is coming home. She's going to be fired. Blah 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 blah. She goes in. Andrew comforts her and says it's fine. They then sleep together. They go home, sleep together again. And then when Nina turns up, it all seems fine. But you can tell that something isn't something isn't there. Nina then starts getting Millie to go do some chores. Basically, gets her arrested because when she turns up, she also says that Millie was a criminal, which you can tell Andrew's not happy about. This culminates in a massive fight after she's arrested, and Andrew has to go sort stuff out. Basically, he tells Nina to leave. That's it. He doesn't want nothing to do with her. She goes off. She's crying in the car. She drives out the gates. And then for the next few days, you have him and Millie enjoying life. After a few days, Millie is giving Andrew breakfast on some posh pint plates that he got. And basically Enzo, who is this groundkeeper, who you don't really see much, he barely says anything in English. He startles as she drops a plate and breaks it. Andrew comes down, says it's all right, says, that's worried, to clean up the plates later, or I'll collect all the plates, I've got a plate guy, blah, blah, blah. He comes home later and says, oh yeah, there's just a document I need you to get in the attic, because obviously he's cleared out that. She goes up. As she goes up to the attic, it's quite bare. There is a filing cabinet, so she starts looking there. As she looks in there, Andrew comes up, locks her in the door. You see that all the bedding stripped down. There's 3 bottles of water in there, and there's a bucket in what is a cupboard. And he realised the big twist, which I didn't see coming. He's the nuts one. Essentially, he locks her in a room until basically he gives her an ultimatum that he slides the plate that she'd broken there. Because it's broken to 1 pieces, she has to do 21 straight cuts across her chest before he will let her out. In between this, you then have the other revelation that it then rewinds to Nina. So Nina was a young girl, unfortunately got pregnant by a lawyer who left her with a kid, and she met Andrew in the same sort of way Millie did. She was a bit taking a mick on in the company. Andrew wined her and dined her, charmed her, married her, and then they moved in together, and then basically she ended up getting locked in the room as well. And when you saw her leaving the gates a few days earlier or so and she was crying, you actually see it's smiling, and she's basically getting her daughter and getting to go out. But unfortunately, when she's having dinner with her daughter, who's still at camp before they leave, her daughter says, we need to go back and get Millie. So this culminates in basically what you have is the final one is Millie ends up cutting herself across her chest 21 times. As Andrew comes in to function to help her out. Nina, having previously been locked in there, had left a knife in a little alcove. She uses that to stab Andrew in the neck and manages to get out and locks him in the cupboard, or in the attic, I should say. Basically then reversing it, saying he has to do stuff as she's breaking all his china, that he basically has to pull out one of his teeth because his big thing about a smile. He does it, and then she decides that she's still not going to out. Goes down, basically, still obviously heavily bleeding, stuff like this. Drinks alcohol, basically knocks out in his games room. Unfortunately, when Nina comes back, she hears the noise in the game room, suspects it's Andrew, and thinks Millie is in the attic. Goes up to the attic, opens it, he's there, altercation happen, he gets killed, gets pushed down some stairs, which is foreshadowed at the very beginning, and that's kind of what I said to my wife. Now, the really clever thing of this is Nina sets it up, tells Millie to get lost, says, I will set this up. He was changing light, basically fell in the middle of the night and killed and died. It's all an accident, blah, 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 blah. When the police turn up and interview her, obviously the story that Millie wasn't there. She came home. This is how she found her husband. And then you have a realization, a female cop talking to her, says that she is the sister of someone Andrew dated before Nina. And then this is where she kind of goes, yeah, okay, I can see that that's happening, blah, 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 blah. Okay, yeah, these things do cut. She says like there's a few marks in that doesn't needs explaining. And she goes, oh yeah, I do know of Andrew because he used to date my sister, but she's never been right since they dated. Believes what Nina says, writes it all off. They have a funeral, which you have Nina's, Andrew's mum's there. Very a bit of a weird personality person. An interesting fact of what my wife said. The reason what Andrew does to the women is what his mum did to him in the books, but that isn't featured. But anyway, yeah, they're all there. Nina, Cece walks off and finds Millie that's turned up, and Nina went over and said, I told you to get away. She says, oh, I can't get away because I'm on probation. Gives her a check, it's 100,000, goes, go live your life. The film then ends with Millie going for another job, and it's a woman. She has a hand on a knife block and pulls a knife out and goes, oh, you were recommended by Nina. You can really, really highly recommended. I think you can help me. My husband, he has a very strong, not like that. She basically inserts that he's abusive, and you can see on her wrist, she's got this massive bruise where he's obviously grabbed her and stuff like that. And really, it's like, I can help you. And I suppose this is a set of books, and that is the end. And as I say, I rate this film 8.2. I thought this film was absolutely amazing. From what the trailer says, of you think it's a housemaid and the wife's absolutely nuts, and it's all a elaborate a ploy that basically Nina knew she's stuck in, and creates this, hires Millie and orchestrates all this, so basically Andrew will get rid of her and she can be free. And I thought that was so clever. Like this, some of these bits are just like you never saw coming. I've heard the book is really good, but this adaptation, in fact, it's 2 hours of stuff that I know they did left out, as my wife said, but I think it's very, very good. Obviously, she doesn't cut herself in the book with the plate either. There's a few other things she does, but I've just thought the whole thing was done very, very well. The actors and actresses are brilliant across the boards. This definitely would have been in my top 10 of 2025 if I got a chance to see it in 2025. As I've seen it in 2026, it cannot be in my top of 2026 because it wasn't released in 2026, and that's the rule I stick to, so I've screwed myself for that. But have you seen The Housemaid? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. Otherwise, I've been Chris from Sci-Fi Screen Time, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.